For me, Game 7 is going to always haunt me.
And a point blank miss by Duncan, and then the follow.
It was almost like Game 6 all rolled into one moment in Game 7. He missed it.
65 years old. That is how long I have been breathing. 40 of them I spent watching basketball from press row, from courtside, from the kind of access that puts you inside the building when everyone else has gone home. I have watched men destroy themselves for this game in every way a man can be destroyed. Bad contracts, wrong teams, injuries that took everything in one night, vices that took everything slowly. But I never watched anyone destroy themselves the way Tim Duncan did. Quietly, completely, and with a smile on his face the entire time. Nobody has told this story honestly until right now. Stay with me, because what I watched across 19 seasons, from close enough to see his face during timeouts, tells a different story than the 5 championship banners hanging in San Antonio. Tim Duncan won everything. 5 titles, 3 finals MVPs, 2 regular season MVPs, 15 all-defensive selections, a record that still stands. He won 72% of every game he played. He never missed the playoffs once in 19 seasons. Not once. And somewhere inside all of that winning, Tim Duncan disappeared. A man named Curtis covered the Spurs beat for 12 years from a press credential that got him into the locker room within 15 minutes of the final buzzer, stood 2 feet from me outside the San Antonio locker room after a game in 2009. Duncan had just put up 24 and 13 against a team that had no answer for him. Curtis watched him walk past the cameras without stopping, without a single word to anyone, without one moment of acknowledgement that he had just done something that most players in this league cannot do. Curtis turned to me and said, "I have been in that locker room for 8 years, and I genuinely do not know who that man is." I understood exactly what he meant, because I had been watching from close enough to see it for years. Here is what people say about Tim Duncan. They say he was the greatest power forward who ever played. They say he was underrated. They say he deserved more recognition than he received. They say the basketball world failed to appreciate what it was watching. Here is what actually happened. Tim Duncan made himself impossible to appreciate. Not accidentally. As a deliberate, consistent, 19-year act of self-erasure that served his winning percentage perfectly and cost him everything else. He showed up to accept his first MVP trophy in a red Nike tee, shorts, and sandals. He called his bank shot boring himself, then went out and made it in the most important games of the season, regardless. He gave every meaningful quote to his teammates and his coach. He refused to perform gratitude. He refused to perform anything. When he won his second consecutive MVP award, he became only the 8th player in league history to go back-to-back, joining names like Russell and Kareem and Jordan. He accepted the trophy with the same flat expression he had worn accepting the first one. No speech about what it meant. No moment the cameras could use. No version of himself that the world could hold on to. The man who won more consistently than almost anyone in the history of this sport decided early that his job was to win games, and nothing else was required of him. That choice worked perfectly on the court, and it made him a ghost everywhere else. The 2013 Finals, Game 6. Spurs up 3-2. Up 5 points with 28 seconds left. Duncan had put up 30 points and 17 rebounds. He was standing at the edge of his 5th championship when Greg Popovich made a decision that changed the series. Popovich pulled Duncan from the floor to defend against the three-point line, choosing to go small rather than keep his best rebounder in the game. LeBron missed. Miami got the offensive rebound. Then another miss. Bosh tipped it out to Ray Allen. Duncan watched from the bench. Allen hit the three. Tie game. 5 seconds left. The look on Duncan's face in that moment is worth studying carefully. Not shock, not anger. Something quieter than both of those. The face of a man who had spent 19 years doing exactly what his organization told him to do, and was now sitting on the bench watching the consequences of that obedience play out in real time. He had been told to sit, so he sat. That was Tim Duncan. That was always Tim Duncan. Game 7. 1 minute remaining. Spurs down 2. Duncan receives the ball in the left block. His spot. The shot he had made 10,000 times. He missed it. He got his own rebound and missed the follow. He walked to the bench and sat down, and smacked the floor twice with his palm. LeBron hit the jumper. The Heat celebrated back-to-back titles. Duncan missed a shot he had made his entire career in the moment that mattered most. That sequence alone would not define him. Players miss shots. What defined him was everything that came after. No public statement, no accountability taken, no press conference where he said what he felt. He went back to work. He came back for 2 more seasons. He took a 3-year, $30 million contract when he could have demanded 3 times that, sacrificing his own compensation so the organization could sign Danny Green and Boris Diaw and Patty Mills. He won his 5th title in 2014, watching Kawhi Leonard receive the Finals MVP trophy while he stood in the background clapping. The Spurs dismantled Miami by an average of 18 points across 5 games. It was the greatest team performance in Finals history. The ball moved perfectly. Every shooter found his spot. Duncan set screens, caught passes in the post, scored efficiently, and deferred to the young players around him the way he had deferred to David Robinson when he first arrived in 1997. It was a perfect performance. It was also the moment the torch was officially passed to someone else. and Duncan stood there in the background with the same expression he had worn accepting his first championship 15 years earlier. Nothing. Controlled. Flat. The organization he gave everything to could not even promise him that he would be in the game in the final minute of a deciding finals game. Here is what destroys me about Tim Duncan after 40 years of watching this league. He could have been anything. The complete package was there from the beginning. Hurricane Hugo destroyed the only Olympic-sized pool in the Virgin Islands in 1989 and ended his swimming career before it started. He picked up a basketball at 14 and had a scholarship by his senior year in high school. He made a promise to his dying mother on April 24, 1990, the day before his 14th birthday, that he would stay in college and get his degree. He kept that promise through the 1995 draft, when Jerry West said he would have been taken first overall, and through the 1996 draft, too. He did not enter the league until 1997 because his mother's last request meant more to him than any contract. That was the foundation of Tim Duncan, a man who kept promises, who put obligations above opportunity, who measured himself by a standard that had nothing to do with recognition. It was the most admirable quality he possessed. It was also the thing that made the league able to take advantage of him completely. He was swept by the Kobe Shaq Lakers at the peak of their powers in 2001 and said nothing. Then he went to Athens in 2004 to represent the United States in the Olympics, fulfilling a childhood dream, and became the face of the most humiliating collapse in American basketball history when the team came home with bronze. Overnight, the narrative shifted from championship contender to the man responsible for the country's greatest Olympic failure. He processed that publicly the same way he processed everything. He did not. Derek Fisher hit a 0.4-second shot to end the 2004 season, and Duncan walked off the floor without a word. Ray Allen hit the greatest clutch shot in finals history on a defensive rebound that was Duncan's to take, and Duncan sat on the bench because his coach told him to sit. Every time this league handed him heartbreak, he processed it internally and came back to work. That quality is what the Spurs dynasty was built on. It is also the reason why, at 65 years old, watching basketball from the same press row I have occupied for 4 decades, I cannot tell you who Tim Duncan actually was. 5 rings, 3 finals MVPs, 15 all-defensive teams, the greatest power forward who ever played. A man who took a $30 million contract so his teammates could get paid. A man who kept a promise to his dead mother. A man who sat on the bench in the final seconds of a deciding finals game because his coach told him to. No farewell tour. No press conference. He just stopped showing up one day and the league moved on without noticing. That is not underrated. Underrated means the world failed to see what was there. That implies something was being offered and ignored. Tim Duncan never offered anything. He performed, he won, he disappeared. And when the game finally finished with him, there was nothing left to find. 5 championships. 1 bench, 2 missed shots, no words. That is what I watched destroy Tim Duncan. The winning was real. The man was not.